So I'm Ethny, I'm Communities and Partnership Lead at the IES, and I co-authored the report that I'm going to be talking about today with my colleague Joseph Lewis, Policy Lead at the IES. I'm delighted to be here at the CEDHE Forum today to talk about the important topic of innovating environmental science education and the role it will play in supporting a transition to a sustainable future. So I'm going to be providing some context on this by using the findings from the IES's year-long Horizon Scanning and Foresight project, which we completed at the end of last year, and which culminated in the publication of the report I just mentioned, which is called Transforming the Planet, Our Vision for the Future of Environmental Sciences. I can post a link to the report later if you're interested in finding out more about that. To provide a bit of background, this project brought together the environmental science community to discuss key factors influencing the sector and provided a forum for discussion around what the future of environmental science should look like and how we can actually get there. Over the course of the year, we delved into 5 key themes to frame these conversations, looking at megatrends, the evolving nature of science, the regulatory landscape, the changing workforce, and the jobs of environmental scientists. The project involved extensive engagement across the sector. We had over 30 different stakeholder organisations getting involved from areas like government departments, environmental NGOs, academics, etc. And over the course of the year, we held more than 20 dedicated events, which attracted over 80 contributors and over 850 attendees. And this led to the development of a report with the 10 core chapters that you can see here, which pulled out the key themes from the discussions that were held throughout the year. Don't worry, you're not meant to be able to see this in detail. We did this using theme mapping from the events and discussions to delve further into the findings, and this is a snapshot of that here. So there were 661 themes mapped and over 1,300 connections identified between them. You will be really relieved to know that I'm just going to focus on a really tiny part of this today, those points which are most relevant to the education sector. But needless to say, I am still distilling a lot of information into a short presentation, so I would recommend you take a look at the report if you're interested in finding out a little bit more. Importantly, the theme mapping provided the foundation for our vision for the future of environmental science. And this is one where environmental scientists are knowledgeable, skilled, diverse, trusted, and engaged in the process of transformation. It is one where people have access to the relevant science to help them solve environmental challenges and co-create a sustainable society where people and nature thrive. There are a few important words to pick out here, which I'm going to focus most of my presentation on today, and those are knowledgeable, skilled, and diverse, areas in which education is absolutely fundamental. To start off with, I want to focus on the themes of sustainability, interdisciplinarity, and solutions-led science. There is now wide acknowledgement that if we are to tackle the interlinked crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, we need to facilitate greater application of systems thinking and interdisciplinary knowledge in order to develop that solutions-led science. And this is science focused on effectively tackling these environmental challenges in a sustainable way. And of course, sustainability is predicated on the need to bring together environmental, social, and economic systems. And understanding the interactions between these systems and how action in one affects the other is a massively important skill, and decision makers and businesses need access to this expertise to support effective policy and practice. Interdisciplinarity and systems thinking is therefore central to achieving a sustainable future and should be a key area of focus for education. And environmental science is fundamentally an interdisciplinary field. It brings together knowledge from geography, geology, biology, physics, and chemistry to understand the world around us. However, specialization within the sector can lead to the development of siloed approaches to environmental challenges and the implementation of single-factor solutions aimed at dealing with specific environmental concerns rather than taking into account the wider systems within which they sit. To develop those solutions that can address multiple challenges in a holistic way really requires a good foundation in interdisciplinary working and understanding of systems. And this needs to go beyond just environmental systems as well, but into those social and political sciences too. And this obviously has many implications for education institutes. Embedding sustainability across the curriculum and bridging gaps between disciplines will be an important part of equipping the next generation of environmental scientists with the necessary knowledge and skills in systems thinking and interdisciplinary working. And of course, there are challenges in this. Traditionally, education is focused on discipline-specific teaching, which can reinforce specialization and siloed thinking. we now need to think about how we can increase porosity between disciplines and departments and embed principles of sustainability and systems thinking. And this also needs to happen at all stages of education, including supporting lifelong learning as well. But there are some really great examples of this already in practice. The Planetary Health Education Framework, for example, is focused on fusing theories, methodologies, and expertise across disciplinary boundaries, with the aim to provide a basis for academics to work across disciplines and with other civic and non-academic partners to tackle those real-world challenges and support simultaneous improvements in human and environmental well-being. And the Education for Sustainable Development Co-Designs Framework is another example of supporting interdisciplinarity and sustainability, providing support for all disciplines to embed ESD in curriculum design. Learnings from approaches like this can support specialist scientists to collaborate across disciplines and apply their specialist knowledge to key challenges. I will take a minute now to talk about an important note, though, that embedding interdisciplinarity and systems thinking is not mutually exclusive with supporting discipline specialists as well. Without disciplines, interdisciplinarity would not exist. It's really just about forging those links across disciplines, allowing for knowledge exchange, and ensuring that specialists have a good grounding in these skills to ensure that their expertise is leveraged effectively. And then alongside specialists, we need to support those boundary spanners and knowledge brokers who can take on those translation and connecting roles. So what does this all mean for skills? And how can education institutes provide a pipeline of skilled environmental scientists and address the skills needs in the sector? I'm going to talk about 4 key categories of skills that were highlighted through our project that will be needed to deliver the vision. It should be noted that when I talk about these skills, I am covering the skills mix needed in the sector. I can't be expected that each professional or scientist holds all of these skills, of course, but it's important that we have access to these skills within the sector as a whole. So no surprise here that the first category is systems thinking skills. I'm not going to say too much about this, I've just talked about it in detail. But as mentioned, environmental scientists are being increasingly consulted to develop these integrated solutions. And to effectively fulfill this need, they need to be upskilled in systems thinking principles and techniques. And this requires specialist knowledge of environmental systems and how they interact, as well as a broad understanding of the social and economic systems in which they operate. Managing this complexity will be a key requisite of future environmental scientists, and in the face of multiple environmental crises, supporting that adaptive capacity in society will be vital. And this requires environmental scientists to develop skills in solutions optioneering to support evidence-based decision-making, with insights on how the different solutions impact and interact within systems. Next up, and very complementary to these, are those enabling skills. And these are needed to support the effective translation of environmental science into action, helping environmental scientists to act as agents of change in society. Again, massively important for interdisciplinarity too. Enabling skills by their nature are varied and will depend on the specifics of the work, but they include things like science communication skills, stakeholder engagement, skills in innovation, critical thinking, leadership and collaboration, those real foundational skills that can bridge gaps between stakeholders and specialisms. Another important one to pick out here is process literacy, and that's skills in understanding the policy-public science interface and how it can be influenced to drive change. Of course, it almost goes without saying that these enabling skills must go hand in hand with technical skills, the bread and butter of environmental scientists' work. Just to paint a picture for the demand for these skills, between 2022 and 23, job postings requiring green skills rose by more than 20%. And this growth really indicates the increasing demand for those technical skills associated with environmental scientists. What is quite interesting, though, is the way in which some of these skills needs are framed. And this is very much reflective of that focus on solutions-led science, as I mentioned before. And this is an increase in demand for skills driven by challenge areas. So things like regenerative agriculture, biodiversity net gain, and nature-based solutions in the circular economy. So it's a slightly different way of framing some of those skills. I won't be able to go over all of the technical skills, of course, that are needed in the environmental sciences, as these are way too wide-ranging. But I did want to take a moment to delve into net zero skills specifically, and some of the key priority skills, both technical and enabling, that were identified in our project, and can paint a picture of these types of skills mix that can be needed in different areas. So in terms of technical skills, things like carbon accounting and reporting is an increasingly sought-after skill, with the rise in reporting requirements related to greenhouse gas emissions and sustainability more broadly. And then there's wider carbon management skills are a massive priority to support organisations not just in reporting their emissions, but actually in developing plans and strategies for reducing them and reaching their net zero net zero targets. And this means that they will need access to a wide range of related skills in energy, waste management, transport, and supply chain management. And then related to that, of course, is climate risk management, so skills related to climate adaptation and resilience. And then in terms of enabling, things like climate communications, supporting policy development and implementation, and social science skills to support behaviour change. All of these things are going to be massively important for the net zero transition. This is, of course, not an exhaustive list, but is a way of highlighting some of those different, some of the different mix needed. And then to go back to my initial skills slide, to support the effective application of both these technical and enabling skills, we also need digital skills. It goes without saying that technological development will continue to have a profound impact on the world of work and study. The environmental sector will need those with skills in managing the new technology and digital workspaces, as well as the vast environmental data sets they are unlocking. Technological development supporting real-time environmental monitoring, augmented reality, digital twins, etc., will all require a digitally skilled and literate workforce. Technological innovation has revolutionized the way environmental scientists collect, curate, analyze, and visualize data on the environment. And a key focus for environmental professionals will be focused on that data collection, cleaning, and analysis, and then integrating those data insights with real-world assessment to feed into decision-making. Evolving education systems is necessary to equip future professionals with these skills and the knowledge needed to succeed in careers and drive change in professional practice. In the environment sector, many employers are facing skills and resource challenges, and if education is not adapted to the needs of society, the skills and resource gap is only likely to widen. So we will need a concerted effort across stakeholders to meet this demand for skills, and education institutes and learning providers should make sure they are equipping learners with the skills and knowledge needed by employers, as well as focus on providing students with opportunities to explore the practical application of their knowledge on real-world scenarios and provide opportunities to develop those underpinning enabling skills. And this will equip learners both with technical competency and the skills to drive change. Supporting diverse routes into the sector alongside lifelong learning opportunities should be a key focus for education to support these skills needs. Alongside traditional education pathways, new technical pathways should be developed, and lifelong learning should be supported through comprehensive industry-recognised training programmes and guidance, which aligned with our updated competency frameworks. Education institutes should also ensure that they are aligning with their curriculums with findings from any skills audits of the profession and wider stakeholders to support those sectoral transition pathways aligned with a sustainable future. But of course, if we're going to fulfil the skills needs in the sector, we also need to ensure that the sector is attracting diverse talent and is representative of the society that it serves. So finally, I want to talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion. The need for a just transition was a recurrent theme throughout the entire project. And I'm sure many of you are aware that the environment sector faces challenges in ED&I and diversity. Research has shown that it is one of the least ethnically diverse sectors in the UK, and despite positive progress, much more needs to be done. ED&I and environmental justice are core components and drivers of sustainability, so EDI can no longer be seen as optional. So what is the role of education in supporting greater equity, diversity and inclusion in the sector? Perceptions and knowledge of the sector can be a barrier to diversity. Showcasing the breadth of careers in the sector, the relevance of these careers to people from diverse backgrounds in their lives, and highlighting role models to create a sense of belonging are all important aspects of ED&I initiatives. And this must start from a young age, with people from all backgrounds having a good understanding of the environment, the ecosystem services that it provides, and the careers that exist to support it. It is therefore vital that different career pathways into the environment sector are promoted, such as technical pathways and apprenticeships, and that we showcase the breadth of career types within the sector and challenge perceptions of what makes an environmental scientist. Making traditional routes such as higher and further education in the sector more inclusive is essential, but it will not be enough to tackle the issue of diversity. These routes can have a number of inbuilt structural barriers. Therefore, it's important that as we break down these barriers, we also develop these new routes. So I mentioned technical pathways and apprenticeships already, but there's also other opportunities like paid internships, ring-fenced opportunities for those from diverse backgrounds, sponsoring diverse talent and creating networks to foster a sense of community. And there also needs to be a focus on cross-cultural integration and recognising that traditional Western ways of thinking and being do not always have all the answers, and we should champion the role of Indigenous knowledge within this work as well. So this has just been a whistle-stop tour of the findings of our project, but I hope it has underlined the critical role that education has to play in addressing environmental challenges, driving change, and achieving a positive future where people and nature thrive. Education can play a key role in supporting this future by embedding principles of sustainability and systems thinking, supporting interdisciplinary knowledge exchange, and fostering skill sets aligned with solutions-led science and providing that pipeline of knowledgeable, skilled, and diverse environmental scientists. I just wanted to leave you with a final thought from our project, which is one of conditional optimism, or in other words, we can achieve a sustainable future. We just need to put in the work to do so. Really happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ethny. That was a really powerful presentation, a fantastic summary of a very detailed vision. So thank you very much indeed. And I think for colleagues working in our area at this time, it's a very difficult time. So it's very pleasing to see a version of optimism at the end, where we really do need to gird our loins and get on with it and start making a difference. Has anybody got any questions for Ethny? Don't be shy, we're all very friendly. Well, I'll start while people are thinking. So, Ethny, what's the plan for taking this forward? Because clearly it's a fantastic agenda, and IES is very well positioned with all its different communities to work together to drive this forward. What are the plans for working this through in the future?
Yeah, it's a really good question and a really important one. You know, we can't just do this type of research and then put it on a shelf and then not think about how it's actually implemented. So there'll be various ways that we need to think about how we can actually drive towards this vision. At the beginning of the report, there's 10 recommendations, and those are framed around the different kind of stakeholders that are needed to drive change. So for the ones that are kind of directly applicable to professional bodies, we will be implementing kind of changes to strategy, changes to operations that really align with that need for interdisciplinarity in particular. So I'm communities lead at the IES, and so I manage our communities, and fostering more links between them and kind of looking at those boundary issues where they overlap is going to be a key area of focus for us. And then in terms of kind of the more the ones that the kind of stakeholders that are a little bit more out of our wheelhouse, it will be about advocacy and influence and thinking about how we connect up those stakeholders for meaningful dialogue.
Thank you. And also I think it's a very useful resource for us as educators, because it explains very clearly what skills are needed and areas that we need to focus on in addressing those. So I think it's a very useful resource. So thank you, Adam, for popping it in the chat. Just seen another comment pop in the chat as well. Yeah, so Adam's added that the new IES 3-year strategy was published in July and will be strongly linked to how we will help achieve this vision. Adam, do you want to add anything to that?
Not particularly, no, just watch this space.
Okay. And I think also we are doing some work looking at how we can inform sort of potential future governments through the election linked to the vision as well, aren't we? But Ian, you have a question.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, just a general question to Ethny, but also to the rest of the team. In these kind of strategies, it quite rightly picks up the sort of skill shortages and their desire of employers for environmental scientists to have certain skills. Sometimes it's hard to pin down what exact skills that they're after. So in the digital skills area, is it GIS type skills? Is it data management, curation? Is it statistical analysis? Just want to pin down on what are those like particular skill sets so that we can make sure that we're putting them in our programs at the level that's needed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think probably part of the problem is that it's so varied across the sector around the type of skills needs that we have. I think there's increasing focus on things like integrating different data sets together, visualizing them in meaningful ways, also managing big data sets and dealing with changes to things like machine learning. But I think in terms of kind of the role that the IES can play in this, what really needs to happen is that education institutes need those connections with industry and business so that they can have those direct dialogues, and having a kind of convening space where you can have those really kind of technical discussions around the different skills needs will be absolutely vital, really, so that you can provide the skills at the education level. But I think that, yeah, part of the problem that we certainly looked at when we were doing the report was that the skills needed are so diverse and completely depend on the kind of challenge or area being looked at.
Any other questions? So we've got a question in the chat, hold on, from Claire. Would you like to speak, Claire, or would you prefer me just to read out your question? Shall I read it out for you? So Claire said, I'd be interested to please learn more about how professional bodies such as IES support students with work placement and internship experience. So Sally, would you be able to outline how we're developing this bulletin board linked to that request?
Yep, so we've set up a working group to create a work placement bulletin board to kind of advertise any opportunities that would be available to students looking for anything from a placement to a voluntary experience to an internship, that kind of thing. But we also offer mentoring services for students that they can connect with professional members who are already in the industry that they might be interested in. And that way they can also find out about any internship and placement opportunities. So that's something that's currently set up, and the work placement bulletin board is something that we're going to work on and hopefully launch at the beginning of the next academic year.
Thank you, Sally. Well, that's perfect timing because we're now at 10:30. So unless there are no more questions, if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll try and answer them as we go along. But thank you very much, Ethny. And I would encourage colleagues to have a look at the vision. It's a really rich resource for us as educators about how we can help shape the future and help our students to shape the future in what are really challenging times with, as Ethny said, a real sense of optimism and empowerment, which I think is really important, as we'll learn later today. So thank you very much, Ethny.